Someone who likes many different subjects.
Who's your favorite polymath in history?
I mean, I like Joe Rogan. I'd consider him a polymath.
Yeah, we've definitely gone down the route of like specialization.
I actually just learned that word chemistry and alchemy come from chemet. People think that the late dynastic Egyptians built the Great Pyramids, right? Like maybe the pyramids were made 10,000 years ago. Working out like hard strength and conditioning, but not like, I don't do like interval training.
This was a time when I was training jujitsu every day. I was lifting every day. I was running like 2 or 3 miles a day.
A lot of people don't deadlift to get good at deadlift. They want to deadlift because they want to be strong. They want to feel good. They want to work out. They want to have strong legs.
Welcome to the Willpower Podcast. So, Matt, tell me about who you are. Sum it up.
Yeah. Yes. So, like I was saying earlier, because we had to restart the recording for a second, if I had to summarize it in 2 words, I was kind of making a joke. I would say evolving thoughts. And I had a podcast. I've had a podcast for a while. I just filmed my first episode in probably like 3 years. Probably have filmed maybe 2. And I just recently I have all the equipment. I have as much as you have, probably, if not more. I just want to be in a space where they just have everything set up for me. And my friend has one. So I went there, filmed it with my friend. It was awesome. But to get back to your question, evolving thoughts and always learning, very involved in health and wellness. I like to think of myself as a polymath, and that's kind of like a esoteric term, but it's a Renaissance man. It's someone who likes many different subjects, and I really enjoy taking lessons from one subject and applying that to other ones, especially ones that deal with humans, human nature, science, evolution, anthropology, things we create, things we destroy, the way we interact with each other, how our body works, how nature works, aligns itself, things like that. And I like business stuff too.
Who's your favorite polymath in history?
Oh man. I don't know if I have one. I mean, I like Joe Rogan. I'd consider him a polymath. I mean, it's just, to me, a polymath is just someone who like is not niched down and likes learning tons of different things about different subjects.
Yes.
I would consider him one. So I'll go with Joe Rogan.
Yeah, we've definitely gone down the route of like specialization, which has a lot of benefits, but there's a book about this that I'm forgetting the name now, but it's about if you can be a generalist, there's a lot of potential because there's like so much crossover you can do and so much like things you can put together. But in history, it was much more normal for like if you were like wealthy enough to go to school that you would learn all the different arts.
Yeah, it was just kind of the way it went. I think we went through like I don't know, actually. I was about to say that I feel like we went through like transitionary periods where people were more generalists and more specialists, but I actually don't think that's true. I think the smartest people tend to be generalists. Mm-hmm. And surely they have one field of expertise, but that expertise comes from being informed in many other fields.
Right. Yeah, I think it's Isaac Newton, I believe, was trying to, what's that thing where it's like an ancient study, but it's like the precursor to chemistry. Alchemy. He was an alchemist. He was like trying to create gold out of whatever. Yeah. At the same time as he's discovering like calculus and physics.
I actually just learned that word chemistry and alchemy come from chemet, which was Egypt was called before it was called Egypt. Chemet was a person. I think Chemet was a person. I don't think he was like a god. I think Chemet was a leader, a pharaoh or something like that. And that's where the word chemistry comes from.
Okay.
Yeah, I just learned that. You know who Jimmy Corsetti is?
Huh.
Graham Hancock?
Yes.
Yeah, so Jimmy Corsetti is like a younger version of Graham Hancock.
Okay.
With a little bit more spunk and energy. Graham's getting, unfortunately, on the way out, I think.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you get old. But yeah, I'm very into like ancient civilizations, technology, all that stuff. I think that stuff is like so interesting.
Yeah, it's cool that Graham Hancock is kind of getting his moment now though with the Netflix series and that.
Yeah.
I honestly have not looked into it that much. Like I think I've heard him on Joe Rogan maybe once or twice, but I have not looked into it myself.
Yeah.
Do you have like thoughts on?
Oh, I could go. I mean, this is not.
So brief people on like who he is and the synopsis of his work.
So what's crazy is I'm such a Graham Hancock fan, but I don't know. Well, that's not true. I tend to once you go into a field of like study, you realize how much you don't know about something.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to do that a lot to myself when I actually do know a good amount. I should give myself more credit. But I think he was a journalist, and I can't remember how he started going into this. I think he might have been studying like God or like spirituality and religion, and then he found all these like coincidences, and then he found these like ancient things, and he was like, wow, there's something here. And I think that's what it was. And so he has been writing books on this, exploring, doing his own research for the past like 3 decades on many different things. He did some on like DMT and ayahuasca and different plant medicines. I want to say that's what kind of got him into this subject that has just blown up, which is like looking at different ways, looking at different, there might be a different story of the human race like 10,000 years ago, aka like people think that the late dynastic Egyptians built the Great Pyramids, which is like 4,000 years ago, 2000 BC. He thinks that there were people way before him that built it, right? Like archaeologists currently, like they think that they lifted all those blocks, those megalithic stones with like levers somehow. They don't know how, but they know that they did it in that time period when there's so many things that point to them not doing it. It's like alternative history in that stance. And it's fascinating, man. And that his Netflix documentary series does a really cool job of like diving into different sites and different things like that.
Yeah, I might have to actually go. I watched a couple episodes, I think, but never didn't.
Yeah.
Didn't get
So
to
like there's 2 different parts too. There's like the cool aspect of ancient history that might have an alternative view, right? Like maybe the pyramids were made 10,000 years ago and they were built upon and they were built around. Because what's really fascinating about it is like the stuff that is noted as older is way more advanced than the stuff that's newer, which doesn't make any sense. For instance, there are like different pyramids and temple all over that area. The newer ones are way less sophisticated, way less nice, way less built than any of the pyramids. And yeah, it's just fascinating. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect, which I really enjoy, is his theory on, okay, so there are all these like civilizations all around the earth. What happened to them? His theory is this thing called the Younger Dryas impact theory, where the Younger Dryas is this time period where we had this really rapid cooling and flooding and rapid, it was about 12,000 years ago. And he thinks that we went through this very active few hundred or thousand years where there were asteroids that were hitting Earth and adding all this energy to the Earth, which then melts the ice caps, which then causes massive flooding. And when everybody lives near the coast, a lot of people die, civilizations get covered. And there's a lot of evidence to back it up, which is really cool. Like different things in the Earth, like these these little like microfragment, like diamond particles that only show up when there's massive asteroid impacts. And it's all over the Earth in that little time period.
So potentially like civilization was actually much more advanced before that.
Yeah.
And then almost restarted.
Yeah. And like not advanced, like they had Teslas.
Right.
But like maybe
but like
advanced.
They were building pyramids.
But like here's the thing is like what they think people were doing back then was like with like sticks and rocks. And they're just like, hey, like they might have had cities and maybe I personally think that they maybe had better understandings of mind and maybe things like telepathy, and they could use sound and different things like that. You know, they just had a different understanding of that. I mean, I think, man, when you sit around and you're bored and you have no technology to distract yourself, I think you can probably, over thousands of years, figure out cool stuff.
Come with some cool
yeah, right? Like imagine being just bored and having nothing to do all the time.
Yeah. You
don't have like an iPhone or like books or anything like that. Maybe books, but like they didn't really have books. Yeah.
Right.
I could go on with that subject for so long. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay. Let's bring it back to modern day.
Yeah.
Let's talk about fitness for a bit.
Cool.
So tell me like what let's just start with like surface level. What's like your fitness routine currently like?
Me personally.
How do you think about this? Yeah. How do you eat all this?
Oh, okay. Well, Fitness, I have very hot takes on. We can explore that. I'll go more general and then wherever you want to dive in. Because my whole thoughts on something you asked earlier, I went to school for neuroanatomy and physiology at Penn State, taught labs there, did cadaver labs, did some different research labs. I was going to go to chiropractic school to become an applied kinesiologist and ended up moving down to Life University outside Georgia or outside Atlanta. And was like, this is so much time, this is so much money. And I found something cool called the Check Institute, which is founded by a guy named Paul Check, about holistic lifestyle and exercise coaching, really advanced movement and postural biomechanical analysis with also a blend of holistic lifestyle and exercise coaching, chakra, breathing, nutrition, mental, emotional well-being, all that ties together. Went and did that for like 2.5 years. At that time, I was working as a personal trainer was my title, but I was a lot more in depth than just your typical personal trainer. And so that's kind of my background. And that was in 2018. So it's been a little bit of time since then. And it's like one of the subjects I like the most. So my views have changed on it a lot. Do you want me to go more into like my views on it or like what I personally do?
Let's start with what you personally do. Like, how do you keep yourself healthy?
So, I like to think of, so something I learned in the Check Institute is everybody has these 4 doctors, and it's essentially your body's way of communicating with you, whether you're living in alignment or out of alignment. There's Dr. Diet, Dr. Quiet, which are ways that we bring energy into the system. And then there's Dr. Movement and Dr. Happiness, which is the way that we take that energy and express it into the world and do things we want to do and take action in the world. So I'll start with the first 2, Dr. Diet, Dr. Quiet. Diet-wise, I eat 80-20, like relatively whole food, animal-based. Right now, typically, I've been like grinding, and something that's been working so well is just rice, pepper jack cheese from HEB, grass-fed ground beef, and some pasture-raised eggs with some butter, some tallow, some Primal Kitchen buffalo sauce, and some of this like Korean barbecue sauce. I've been eating that probably like 10 times a week.
Okay.
Yeah, like I can eat that like for lunch and dinner. Usually eat 2 meals a day. Mm-hmm. Mornings usually like coffee with butter. So, and then, like people think I'm very strict and like, oh, you never eat seed oils, you never eat out. I'm like, bro, there are people that are like that because unfortunately they have to be like that. I'm the opposite. I have like the most robust system. Mm-hmm. I can eat like shit. I can eat P-Terries and be completely fine. P-Terries isn't that bad, but.
Okay, so
that's more nutrition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm pretty similar in the sense of like if I find something I like, I'm just like I'll just eat this.
Yeah.
Like I'm good with this.
Yeah. I switch it up, but I go through periods where I'm just very content with the same thing because it's delicious to me. Yeah. And it's quick. I make all the rice beforehand. I make all the beef beforehand. I just got to cook up eggs, throw the rest in the pan, heat it up.
How do you cook the rice ahead?
I soak it, swish it around, drain the water. Soak it again, swish it around, leave it for a day, drain the water. That way I get a lot of the anti-nutrients out. You familiar with that? Like soaking?
No, I rinse it, but I don't soak it.
Yeah. So if you soak it for a day and then just leave it. Leave it, rinse it first. That will get a lot of it out. You know how it gets really white?
Yeah.
You see that? And then leave it for 12 hours, leave it for 4 hours, and then just drain it again. That will get more of the stuff out too.
And how do you cook it after a couple times?
Yeah, I use a pressure cooker, Instant Pot pressure cooker. My roommate put me onto this instead of butter, putting coconut oil in there. Tastes pretty good.
Okay. And then how do you keep it do you like use that for the week?
Yeah,
or do you just do it once?
I just put it in a Tupperware.
And it's not dry. It doesn't.
No.
Huh.
No.
Okay.
Yours gets dry.
Mine often will get really dry and just like, yeah, not good.
Maybe, I don't know. Rice is hard like that, man.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it happens to me too. You're not alone. I don't know. Just the last few times I made it just turned out good.
All right. Okay. So the rice thing, I'll figure that one out. Let's continue on. So yeah, I'm similar in picking out things I like. Yeah, I've been doing chicken lately, but I have periods of doing beef.
Yeah, I just like ground beef, man.
Yeah.
It's just so easy for me.
It's
cheap,
it is very
simple.
Easy to cook.
I can make it so many different ways. So that's nutrition. I'm a really big believer in like circadian rhythm health. So sleep and recovery are the thing that if I dialed that in more, I would probably be, that's like the 20% that will give me 80% of the results. The other stuff I'm pretty good at. I tend to stay up late when I smoke weed. Sometimes I stay up late too. Like some people are like, oh, I fall right asleep. I'm like not that person. I'll stay up until like midnight, 1 a.m. So just getting good sleep, Getting sunlight a ton in the morning, trying to get to bed on time, blue light blockers, doing all that sort of great stuff. Other ways, like movement wise, exercise wise, working out, like hard strength and conditioning, but not like, I don't do like interval training. I've been, for the past like 2 years, I've been loving drop sets. So I will pick two or three like large movements. Compound movements is the word I was looking for. Mm-hmm. Like I'll do weighted push-ups, and I might just do like single arm cable rows, like split stance, one leg in front of the other. The cable might be really low or the cable might be really high, and I'll do like 6 sets of that. But in each set, I will do a drop set. So I might start at 100 pounds for like 4 reps, and then I'll do 80 pounds for 4 reps. Then I'll do 60 pounds for 4 reps, and then I might even do 40 pounds for 4 reps.
And just go on a failure, or where are you going?
I mean, close to failure. Mm-hmm. I stop 1 or 2 reps short of failure, 1 rep short of failure, and then I lower the weight so I can keep going. Yeah. And I go really hard in that set, and then I'll wait. And I'll superset it. So I might go really hard in that set, and then I'll probably take like 60 seconds before I jump to the other exercise. It's usually a push-pull combo. Mm-hmm. And then I'll wait like 2 minutes after that. Very casual, but once I get in that set, I'm working very, very hard. And I do that 2 times a week, and I keep muscle on pretty well.
Okay.
I don't need much more than that. But I've been working out for 15 years. So I'm like a quick responder to that sort of stuff.
Right. Easy gainer.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So two workouts a week, 2 strength training.
Yeah, and then I'm playing pretty intense beach volleyball 2 or 3 times a week. Like literally right after this, I'm going to play for like 4 hours tonight.
Nice.
And then I play ice hockey every single week.
Oh, sweet.
And then
where are you from?
Outside Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up playing all
Makes
my
sense.
life. And then I'll mix in some other stuff like some spike ball, some bike riding, some tennis, things like that. So lots of sports. Mm-hmm. And that takes up. So I just got a Whoop band 2 weeks ago. I had an O-ring for like 4 years, and I've known about Whoop bands for the longest time. The whole goal of me having an O-ring was to connect with myself and then to understand those things a little better. And I was like, you know what? Chris Williamson had an ad. He was like, you can try it out for a month free. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll just try it out for a month and send it back. Mm-hmm. See what I'm doing.
And how do you feel about it? 2 weeks in.
Good. Man, I think my body does not like having like little devices on it. I get little pangs of like pain from it sometimes.
In the location of it?
Yes. I think the EMFs are affecting me. And I don't have like a huge negative attitude towards it. So I don't think it's I'm not placeboing myself into it. But man, sometimes it like really hurt. It like really like deep pain. Not like stinging, like someone's pinching you, like it's weird. And I take it off and it's gone. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Surface. I don't know. I never had that with the Oura Ring though.
That's interesting. Yeah. I don't think I've noticed that. I have like a Garmin running watch and then a Oura Ring. Yeah. I haven't noticed.
Well, what's weird is like, I wear watches all the time. I wear braces all the time. And I never, ever get those feelings. But with this, I do.
The whoop you do.
And I just move it to my other arm.
Yeah.
And then stop.
Switch it over.
And then it happens on the other arm sometimes. So yeah, it's taught me a lot. I've been like I have a really high strain level. So just with all the sports I'm playing and like my activity levels, and then my recovery is like.
How do you think about recovery beyond just like, sleep? You try to sleep at the same time?
Yeah. So to wrap up my my little health thing, we can talk about recovery. I do try to do sauna like 2 times a week.
Okay.
Pretty hard sessions in the sauna.
What temperature, time?
195, typically up on the highest level. I like doing rounds, so I'll do 85 to 95% intensity, something like that for like 20 to 25 minutes. And then when it's really cold out, now it's getting warmer, so this will change. But I love sauning when it's cold because I'll just walk outside and get chill out from there. I'll walk over to Squatch, and then I'll go do some exercises outside, shoot some basketball with people, and then I'll walk back over and do another round.
Back in the sauna. Do you have a sauna?
But Squatch is too, so.
Yeah. I've been thinking about going to Squatch.
It's cool. I love it.
I'm in between Squatch and Lift ATX.
Yeah. You should come to Squatch. If you're going to drive that far, just come to Squatch. Dude, it's so cool. So many people hang out there. They throw so many events. Mm-hmm. Not as many people like doing like Instagramming cliche videos. like people working out hard. It's less, I've been to both. It's less like steroidy strength training, powerlifting, more like people like stretching, doing flowy sled pushes, shooting basketball, hitting volleyballs.
And just like moving. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
More of like a based culture.
I'm going to look into both.
Yeah.
Certainly.
It's more expensive, but they also have sauna and cold plunges.
I know. And that's important to me too. I haven't been doing either that much. I actually have a converted cold plunge that is under repair, and it has been for a while. I've just been
like
have not fixed it. Chest freezer.
Yeah.
But there was a period a few years ago where I was going to the downtown YMCA that has a sauna.
People love that one. I heard so many people.
It's pretty sweet. It's like $50 a month. They have a sauna. They have a pool. They have a good gym. Everything.
All right, fair. I mean, not bad.
And I would do that. I would do the sauna every day for like 25, 30 minutes.
Nice.
And this was a time when I was training jujitsu every day. I was lifting every day. I was running like 2 or 3 miles a day. And I was not sore ever.
Wow.
And I think it was the sauna and the cold plunge.
Yeah, sort of. Maybe.
Or it could also be that my body was just like adapted to that.
Yeah, I don't get that sore anymore, to be honest with you. I don't train legs that much, and I feel like that's... I train legs through... I would train legs. I trained legs for a decade. I broke my leg when I was younger, and I have pins in my knee, and it bothers me when I do like traditional lower body strength training, and it doesn't bother me if I don't, and I can still play ice hockey, volleyball, do all the things. I'm like, I don't need lunges. But I do like full body movement stuff, like twists and pulls and sled pushes and things like that. I just don't squat and deadlift.
Right. I definitely had periods where I didn't do legs.
Yeah. I have hot takes on that stuff though. This was like kind of like, I think deadlifts are fucking awful, dude.
Really?
I think they're so bad.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So
talk about this. I've been deadlifting recently, so I won't get too offended.
I have this I did a presentation on this at the Sapien Center a while back. I have this little thing called like the mat. I used to at my old business, it used to be called Move with Matt. So I call it the Move with Matt triad. And it is a balance of Czech practitioner, WEC training. Do you know that? David WEC? Okay, WEC training and GOTA training. And so Czech practitioner is like traditional strength and conditioning with physical therapy, spinal rehabilitation, infant development, traditional, physical therapy stuff. Yep. And the WEC method aspect of it is this. The WEC method is actually the one I don't know the most about in terms of like training wise. But it's this thing called, they use these acronyms. One is called RMT, rotational movement training. And have you ever seen people do rope flow where they like, it's like jump rope, but they're not jumping and they kind of spin it around themselves a little bit? Yeah, probably not. It's this really cool aspect of working out where you coil your body from side to side and you're always using rotation and movements because that's how our body is meant to move.
Okay.
And then the other aspect is GOTA, which is this really cool kind of dogmatic training method that says we probably shouldn't be doing a lot of lifting. This is where my more controversial takes kind of come into play. So I had both of those, WEC and Czech practitioner training, which I think most people would agree with. And then GOTA gets a little bit more controversial. And GOTA does this, it stands for greatest of all time actions or greatest of all time athletes. And it's this really interesting thing where they take, this is kind of like the polymath in me that likes this idea. They study these 5 different groups and how we move. One is infants and how we develop and how they move. The next is athletes, like very high performing athletes. The next is athletic old people. So people that are 80, 90 years old and still are, well off athletes. Not ancestral cultures, like indigenous cultures that are not taken over by chairs and Western society. They live like us humans probably lived for a long time in that area. And then nature. So like how do animals and reptiles and plants, how do they organize themselves? And it's usually in spirals. And their take is like humans are made to move forward. There is a locomotive forward pattern that you can see patterns in when it is expressed well, like in throwing, like in walking, like in sprinting, pushing things. And then so that's the forward movement pattern. And then there's reverse gear pattern, which is also a lifting pattern, which spirals the opposite way and doesn't move us forward. It actually moves us backward. You can think of like a deadlift, right? When you deadlift up, you're moving backward, or like a snatch, right? You're not moving forward because then you would tip over and fall forward. Their idea is we sit in reverse gear patterns all the time. We're doing it right now. We're very front chain dominant right now. Our front is tight, whereas this is a back chain dominant where your back is open, like good posture. You can think like your butt sticks out, your tail sticks out, the crown of your head is raised up. We're very front dominant, and we sit like this all the time. We sit in cars like this all the time. And then when you do a deadlift, right, this is kind of the pattern you want to be in to deadlift well. Like I can't really do it right now. I'd stand up and show you, but I think you get the point. And like those are reverse gear patterns. And if we nail those if we're like that all the time, and then we nail those patterns into our body with very high amounts of stress, we're going to like ingrain those negative biomechanical patterns when we're supposed to be forward moving cars, right? Like just because your car can go in reverse does not mean you drive it in reverse all the time. Cars are made to go in forward. Long-winded answer, but does that make sense?
So how do you rewrite that beyond just like, okay, I'm not going to deadlift?
Well, okay. So here's the hot take. There are only a select few amount of people that I think should be deadlifting. And it's people that deadlift for a living. Like people don't deadlift because it's the best exercise. They deadlift because it's like the thing to do to be strong. And the general population of people. So the thing about what's cool about GOTA is like, they just want people to walk well and walk pain-free with good biomechanics. That's like the foundation of them. They're like, hey, like if you can't walk well and you can't walk pain-free, then like, what are you doing? Right. Like there's something foundational about walking in the human experience, like having good arches, having good hip turns, having a good spine that can rotate side to side. If your shoulders are parallel, your head tracks over your feet. And if you can't do that, like, I don't know, man, maybe you shouldn't be trying to deadlift 400 pounds. And then strength and conditioning, people get injured so much from strength and conditioning. I think it's something that like people just don't talk about a lot. And I'm not here to like I strength and condition all the time, and I'm not here to like shame people about deadlifting. A lot of people don't deadlift to get good at deadlift. They want to deadlift because they want to be strong. They want to feel good. They want to work out. They want to have strong legs. They want to have a strong core. They want to get a big butt, right? So it's a blend of that sort of stuff. Not because they want to deadlift a lot. Powerlifters want to deadlift a lot. But like, if I told you could get all those things without deadlifting, you might do it, right? And I think there are better exercises that you could do. Lunges, sled pushes, squats. Okay. I just don't think, so like.
There's something that feels so like natural about like, okay, just pick this up.
True. This is a really hot take too. Okay. So I will agree with you on that. However, when you move stuff and you have a big box that's full of clothes, what goes through your mind? It's hard. Yeah. It's very hard to lift a large box that's like awkwardly heavy. Yes. Right? Why?
It's usually, okay, what's coming to my mind is that it's not necessarily the legs that are the choke point.
True.
It's like something about holding it in my arms.
Yeah. It's weird. It's an awkward thing. So you kind of like, thank you. You kind of like set me up for this well. We have made the gyms very ergonomic for us to put large amounts of numbers of weight on things and lift it repeatedly. For example, I do cable rows a lot, right? And I typically use like a simple handle, right? We have made it so freaking easy to hold things like that. Same with like a dumbbell, right? Like I can pick up a dumbbell that's 100 pounds and I can keep 100 pounds in the center of my wrist, which is arguably impossible to do in the natural world. That's why lifting the heavy 50-pound, like if you had a 50-pound box of clothes, that would be very hard to lift and like maneuver around because it would have to be very big because clothes don't really weigh that much. And you can't get around it. We can't get to that center of mass because it's in the box. Whereas when you deadlift, you put the weight right in the center of you, but then your hands aren't even around it, but then the weight sits right in your palms in this nice smooth barbell that rotates as you lift too. And then the weight isn't even close to you. The weight is actually perfectly harmonized on both sides of you, right on the outsides of you. So it's not too far away that it's heavy. I don't think it being far away would actually matter, but it's not in your stance, so you don't have to move around it. So to back to your point, I agree. Lifting things is very important, and I lift things all the time. I have like big sandbags and big like heavy like firm balls that I lift all the time, and I lift dumbbells all the time. I just don't think you need to lift over 200 pounds. Like, when was the last time you lifted anything over 200 pounds that was outside of a gym?
There's one, but it was my girlfriend's couch. I don't know if it was probably around 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And it was with someone.
Yes. And you did it one time.
Yes. We did it one time, and it definitely took a lot more than leg strength. It took a lot of weird shifting and being able to push one side or the other.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think so there's this point of like the gym is very easy for us to work in. And do you think I did a good job of like articulating that a little bit? Like we have like these toys that make lifting you get the number really high.
So what I'm getting from it is, like, for example, when you go to a gym and they have like machines, like Planet Fitness, they have all these like specific machines.
Yep.
This is just that, but even a level farther down. So like you can go from free weights to machines.
Yep.
That's like even more cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Or you can go from natural movements, or like sandbags is pretty.
Yeah.
And you can go to free weights. That's the similar step.
Yeah.
It's another step down that line.
I guess more so the point I'm trying to make is like, yes, deadlifting 500 pounds is cool. I don't think you'd ever actually do that in the world. And I think you can then, kind of like something you alluded to, was like your legs get so capable of lifting barbells 500 pounds. But when you go to lift a couch that's 200 pounds, the structures that exist in our body to move things in the world were not conditioned. So like you think you're very strong because you are very strong, but you're only strong in this very ergonomic environment that is not how the world actually is made. That's why like there's this like thing called like farm strength. And like people who are manual workers, they're so freaking strong because they're dealing with things that are usually not made to be ergonomic. They're lifting things that are like the levers are really far away from them. They're hoisting things and things like that. So they get this like really robust real world strength rather than, same with like jujitsu people, right? They're so incredibly strong. And like wrestlers is why they can take like these like massive, really big, strong guys and just make fools of them. One, it's technique, but I think another one is just like they're working in these patterns that they don't have rules. There's not rules in jujitsus of like, once you get this deep, you can't go any further. It's like, nah, man, I'm just gonna like, you gotta work with what I'm giving you. Whereas deadlift is like, this is my action. This is all I can do. I do this over and over again. And my hot take is that I think deadlifts do more damage than they do good. If you're just trying to like get a nice butt, work out, do lunges, do them with good form too.
Okay, what else can people do? So imagine there is someone who's been deadlifting and they're doing it for other like strength, general health, things like that. What can they do instead?
Well, everything has nuance to it. You got to take in your personal considerations. You got to take in what you like to do. You got to take in what you're motivated to do. You got to take in consideration all of your past injuries and things like that. Cool. Sprint, be agile, play some sports, do some Bulgarian split squats, do some walking lunges, do some reverse lunges, push things around like a sled, jump high, broad jump, squat. I tend to like squats that keep me on my forefoot, not my heels.
Okay.
You sure do back squats. Wouldn't be my favorite one. They're kind of like on the spectrum of deadlifts in my opinion. Yeah. And just use your legs doing other things. Like I like doing wood chops, like, and things like that. And like, sure, like if you really, really want to lift really heavy things, go do all that stuff. But I think if you can, it's like what environment, if you're just want to lift 400 pounds because that's like the cool thing to do, cool, do it. But like, there might be some negative consequences there. I think if you can lift 200 pounds, you'd be great. You do that well. And then you can like express that in different sports and things. Like you get people that are so strong and bulky like that, but man, they can't play basketball, they can't play tennis, they can't play volleyball or anything like that. And I'm not saying everyone has to be an athlete, but there's more than just working out. And like I made the point earlier, I think that stuff, you keep doing that over and over and over again, it can hurt you. So
okay,
a little hot take there.
If you could give one rule to take away from this, what would it be?
Rule in terms of movement?
Let's say in terms of fitness.
Do stuff that makes you feel good. If you don't feel better at the end of a workout, then you, like truly, like if you're in pain because you're doing a workout, like musculoskeletal pain, like take a step back and just look at what your actual goals are. And are you doing that movement because someone cool told you to do that movement, or because, or are you doing it because of like some other goal? And is there another way that you can achieve that? I guess that's maybe something you could take away from
So
that.
do what feels good after.
Yeah, well, I think about this with a lot of things. I think about this with food a lot too, is like people will eat foods that make them feel like crap. And I'm not saying you can't ever do that, but like they won't associate the two. Like I know that eating donuts isn't good for me. And when I eat, but like I know that the way I feel like shit because I'm eating the donuts, like I have the association and I'm willing accepting the association. There will be people that will eat like plant-based smoothies and nuts and milks and all these anti-nutrients, and they're like, you're telling me this is bad for me? Why? And I'm like, you're bloated all the time and you feel like crap because of the food after you eat it. Like, how do you not associate those two together? So you can do the same with exercise.
Yeah, that's true in a lot of things, a lot of areas of life. Like if you're doing something, like right afterward, how do you feel? Do you feel good?
And I think with experience, you can learn to, like, especially with exercise, you learn the difference between like the grind and the grit and like hard work versus like pain, you know? And I have been very thankful. Something that Paul Chek taught us is the pain doctor, because pain is, I think in his system, there's 5 levels to like injury, and pain is the last level. So your body doesn't want you to stop moving. It doesn't want to give you pain to stop playing pickleball because your knee, we'll just use that example, playing pickleball because your knee, maybe your knee starts to hurt. Your body really doesn't want you to do that. That's stage 5 though. There has already been issues building up for a long period of time before that happened. And now it's like, hey, listen, if you don't stop doing these movements that are causing you, I'm giving you the pain as a symptom of a greater issue, because if you keep doing this, you're going to hurt your joint, and that's going to hurt the nerves, because that's really what your body cares about, is the nerves. And then you're not going to be able to move, and then you're not going to be able to eat, and then you're going to die. So
how do you pick up on the early signs? What are those?
Pain. I mean, realistically, I don't think you really can pick up on all the other things other than the musculoskeletal pain. And that's just something I have been like, I'm grateful because of my knee, my leg injury when I was younger. I shattered my femur. I was snowboarding when I was 13 years old. I hit a tree and just broke my leg in half. Had to get surgery. I have a titanium rod that goes through the whole way through my femur. I have pins in my hip, pins in my knee. And now I'm way more in tune with how my stress, whether it's through diet or sleep, affect my likeness of injury, because I have learned that if I get really shitty sleep during a week and I eat it doesn't matter any time, but it tended to be on weekends. And if I eat like shit during that weekend and then I push myself that Monday, I was way more inclined to hurt my knee, like re-aggravate it essentially. And, you know, then I've even, like, as much as I love ice hockey, it makes me so happy to play. Sometimes there was a period like a year ago when it was bothering me a lot playing ice hockey, where I was like, hey guys, I got to get off the ice. You know, like, this sucks. I kind of feel like a loser getting off the ice right now, but my knee hurts and this game is not worth it.
Right.
Yeah. And that has also caused me to learn a lot of lessons in that, and just be like, you know, hey, it's okay, dude. It's okay to like get off the volleyball court because your knee hurts. It's a freaking casual game with your friends. You don't need to tough it out. You got a life out of you. This
is one of the biggest lessons of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Is like, dude, just tap. Like, if you're in an uncomfortable spot, just tap.
Yeah.
If you are like, if someone has a submission on you and you think you could get out, but you're not sure, like, it's okay to just tap.
Yeah.
Or sit out if they're doing something you're not comfortable with. It's not worth it. I had that in my first year training. I began to learn that because there were some times where I would be put in some kind of like crank, like where they're twisting my neck, but it's not a choke, so I don't have to tap.
Yeah.
And then I like couldn't sleep that night. And so then I'm like, is me not tapping and like holding out with my ego of like, I didn't fucking tap. Is that worth me not sleeping that night?
Yeah.
Probably not.
And it has to happen to you a few times for you to be like, fuck, this sucks. Yeah. I need to not make that mistake again. And then you think that, then you don't do it. Mm-hmm. And then you get pain again. And then you're like, crap, I've been here before.
Start to learn. Yeah.
It happens. That's why like I've kind of stayed away from jiu-jitsu, just because of my knee. I want to get more martial. I want to try like maybe some boxing or like Muay Thai.
What's something that you are currently struggling with?
Well, learning to sell things, different things. I've always been somewhat of like a salesman. And right now I am helping people scale their CPG businesses.
What is CPG?
Consumer packaged goods.
Okay.
So like our LaCroix is a CPG. These lights are CPGs, but I do health brands. So Talos skincare products, are ready to drink like drinks and supplements, anything like that.
Okay.
Consumables that people can sell online via e-commerce stores, essentially. And me and my business partners help people do that. And I am, one part of me is, one responsibility I have is like the lead success coach for our students in our program. And then the other is to go out and sell and get interested people. And if they're a fit for the program, get them involved. And so I've been like figuring out my best way of doing that. Mm-hmm. And right now it's literally just sitting down and sending like face videos to different brands. Right. Actually, it has been working pretty good, but like getting down there and doing it often is like a repetition skill type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. I tend to procrastinate a lot when I get a little unmotivated, and I like working with other people. I'm very collaborative. So I've been kind of working a little bit alone recently, which tends to not work that well for me long term.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing anything that doesn't have immediate feedback is very difficult. Like I can imagine you're sending out all these videos, and like if one of them hits and they respond and things work out, that's great. But I'm sure it's very infrequent.
Yeah.
And so that I can understand where that motivation is tricky. How have you found systems to motivate yourself into doing things like this?
No, other than just following up. Like my biggest thing is always getting back to community in my work. Mm-hmm. And so just continually like getting on calls and organizing calls with my coworkers to like do that stuff. And also I'm just trying to be in a higher leverage position. What I've learned recently is over the past few years is I am very good at problem solving and leading and managing people. And with the new business, I've had to kind of take a step down and become more operational. And I'm not great at being operational. I'm very good at being problem solver. Like, let's plan things out. Then you go do the work. Mm-hmm. And part of me is like, Matt, just go do the work. You should be good at this stuff. But the other part is like, dude, like, I'm not a guitarist. I play the drums. I'm not a forward in ice hockey. I'm a defenseman. And even though I'm good at being a forward, and even though I can score goals, I'm meant to be on defense because my skills are best suited. And I work the best when I play defense in ice hockey. That's actually a pretty good example of it too. So, because there's like a push and a pull. It's like, man, like this is my own inner dialogue. I'm very hard on myself sometimes, but like you should be able to do this stuff. You should be able to be doing the operations, the day-to-day stuff. I just freaking love like talking with people and planning things out and helping them with problems. Right. Because I view, again, kind of back to like the polymath thing. Like I love learning. I could learn and listen to podcasts all freaking day and and learn and take notes and then distill those notes into different information for people. And I'm trying to get into positions where that is the most effective thing for the goal that we're currently trying to achieve.
Yeah, I've thought about this a little bit. It's like because I'm pretty similar in that I like to, my favorite thing is to think big and to just like come up with ideas and just like imagine just really dig into imagination, curiosity. But there is also the reality that things don't get done. And so I don't know. I definitely, that's a struggle for me too, is how to make things happen. Because my ideal, something I've thought of in the past, an ideal system for me is like, I come up with an idea and then I have some system of
it does all the work
people that like, I tell them this idea and then they poop it out and like, then
do you think everybody just has these thoughts? I don't think
dude,
so.
I hope not.
But like,
I hope a lot of people are willing to be in the machine part.
I'm like, because like in my own mind, like I feel you on this. Like in my own mind, I'm like, fuck, it's just, but doesn't everybody just hope they have this?
Everyone
But I
wants to do
don't
that.
think that's true though. Like I know people in my life that are operators. They like love being in the thick of it. They love like sitting down and just grinding out work. They can stay up late. Like I can stay up late and learn and watch podcasts and be super on freaking Brazilian politics. And like, I'm so freaking interested in it. I can tell you all about it. I can tell you all about Brazilian politics right now. I love it. I love learning about this stuff. But like, yeah, I just don't want to be the operator. And it's a good problem to have because now I'm coaching people on business. So I'm in that role. Like I'm helping people with content strategy. I'm helping people come up with ideas and ways to position themselves for greater value, whether it's on their Shopify store, whether it's on their email lists, different marketing strategies, etc. So I'm kind of doing it. It's good. It's like, Matt, I have this problem. Help me. I'm like, well, I know this part. I know this part. My business partner, Colin, knows this part. I'm going to get us all together and I will make the pre-meeting notes. Colin, I need your help on this, this, and this. They are struggling with this. And then I will go do my research for a few links that will be good resources for you to use. And then we're going to talk about this for 20 minutes. And then we're going to talk about this for 20 minutes. And then we have free time. And then we're going to wrap it up. Make sure we take action we have action plans and go do that. That stuff lights me up. You know, I had someone I really look up to tell me once, she was in the military and she was like, did you ever think about being in the military? I was like, a little bit. She was like, you would have made a really good officer. And I just see it. And I get people to tell me that a lot, which is really interesting. I don't know. I think I was born to like lead people on a battlefield.
Yeah. You just have to do that, the modern day version of that.
Yeah. Do you ever see those like memes? It's like born to battle dragons, like cursed to like send emails from my laptop. It's like there's like a few slides of things like that. I think they're pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And definitely, yeah, I think there are people built for both roles.
Yeah.
But so you are operating, you have to operate your business somewhat within it.
Yeah.
And do that.
I have to do the sales calls. I have to do the cold outreach. And, you know, it's good to flex that muscle. And it's also good to build those skills because if you can sell stuff, you're valuable. It's something I want to do. And I don't know if it's like something I want to do long term, but if I could get good at selling, you know, you can make good money that way. And then that can free up my time to do other things that I'm really very passionate about. But
what's been your history with sales?
Well,
it's something, just a background. I did door-to-door lead generation for a bathroom and window company for one
hard.
summer in college.
What was your experience with that?
And that's been that was pretty fun, honestly. Like I felt a little weird about it because you're like going up to people's houses and like,
dude, like the first like few days, you're probably like, I'm so nervous.
Yeah, certainly nervous, like forgetting what I'm supposed to say. Yeah, I think it was fine. Honestly, I felt a little weird about, like, I was never happy about the product. I was like, I'm setting them up to like for these like sales guys to come in and like,
it's never a good situation when you're doing that.
Force sell this like window thing to them. But I think it was a good learning experience. And for me, just like the way we did it was just very motivating. Like we had like a leaderboard on the app and like, just that part was motivating.
See, that stuff, I don't have something like that. So that would be a little bit more motivating for me. I'm very externally motivated, which is not a great skill, not a great thing to have. I think it's probably great in some instances, but like it's for some reason, man, I just have a very hard time around internal motivation and work. It's just work that I don't like doing.
Right. And what's that been like for you? Like,
I don't know, man. I'm struggling to do work long term.
Have you worked like for yourself or on a business that you own for a long time?
Yeah. So I did holistic lifestyle and exercise coaching for like 3.5 years. And that was like partially clients would come to me through the business. Partially I would get clients. So push and pull there. I was always selling myself. Something I learned from Grant Cardone, which I think is like, I've told a lot of people about it, is like everybody is a salesperson. You're always selling something, whether I'm selling my coach consulting business, whether you're selling me to come on your podcast with you, whether I'm selling my friends to like go get Thai food tonight instead of barbecue, whether you're, you know, trying to sell the car dealership to give you $2,000 less on the car, right? Like you're always negotiating and doing stuff like that. So I've taken that really deeply. and like, oh, like this is, it's true. At least I think so. What was your question again?
There have been a couple that I think I sidetracked you on. Let's talk about the self-motivation.
Oh, yeah.
Internal motivation.
Yeah. I just, sometimes it's hard for me to, when I don't have a community to be around, to like work really hard. Like I work very, very hard in group settings, like volleyball. I'll fucking go all out. Ice hockey, I'll go all out. And even like working out, these are all physical activities. Again, I don't have an issue going all out for that. But man, you're like, sit down and like write all this stuff out. If it's not very closely tied to like a hard result, it's hard for me to do it. It's like, get more sales so we can make more money and then get more people in the thing. I'm like, but if it's like, you know, I don't know, like you get 2 more people in here, otherwise the whole business is going to fail. I'm like, crap, we need to do this right now. You know, because it's kind of like a nebulous goal.
Right.
Yeah, right.
There's a clear thing you need to get done.
And there's also like people doing it with me. I like that. Like I'm very externally motivated. Mm-hmm. In terms of like, I don't want to let these other people down. Like we're all in it together. Right. And if I go hard, that might inspire mm-hmm. them.
Yep. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I have that too. I have like an extreme competitive drive, and it comes out in certain times. But yeah, when I know people can see me working, that changes how I work.
I think so too. That's 100%. For sure. Yeah, I think that's a big one for me. And you know, it's like, oh, it's amazing. I can work from home and all this stuff, and I'm like, I struggle to do that, man. Like I kind of like there's push and a pull. It's like I wish I could go in somewhere, but also like I like not being, you know. I'm going to Buenos Aires in like 2 weeks, and so I'm going to be working from Argentina for a little while.
Yeah.
That's nice too. Yeah, honestly, the work stuff has been something I've struggled with a lot. So I'm always trying to put myself in better positions and also work on myself. Mm-hmm. I'm very hard on myself on it. So I get enough hate from myself when I don't do well.
How do you deal with that?
Journaling, talking about it with people. Talking about it seems to be the best thing for me. Just people I trust, and also like journaling my thoughts and just like stream of consciousness, letting it go. Dance is really good too. I really like me being just dancing and singing, is a good way for me to like move that energy throughout.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have the trait that I am very hard on myself as well.
Yeah.
And it comes and goes, but
yeah,
I don't know if I found any like solution.
I don't know if there is a solution. I think we're just, you know, it's a push and a pull. It's like you can be neutral all the time, or you can have like really highs and really and highs and lows. And that's maybe a story that I might tell myself, like, you don't need all the lows, but you know, would you rather just like not, you know, you have all these books around you for personal development. The reason you get that is because you're unhappy with the current situation you're in. If you weren't unhappy with the current situation and feeling down, then you wouldn't have taken action to get all these things, right?
Is there a place I don't know if this is true or not. As humans, do you think we can strive for something better even if we are already in a good position?
I mean, it could always be better. Does that answer your question?
But will we be motivated to change it? Yeah.
I mean, people are motivated by a lot of different things. You know, ask your question a different way, because I don't know how to answer that one.
So I tend to be very negative, motivated by the negative.
Yeah.
Like I'm not good enough.
Negative reinforcement works well.
I'm not good. I need to be better. I did this poorly. That was horrible. And then I learned not to do that.
Yeah.
Is there another way of working, which is I see somewhere I could be and I would like to be there? It doesn't necessarily mean I'm rejecting where I'm at right now, but there's this place that I want to be, or there's this action that I take that I feel good about. Let me do more of that so I can go to this other place.
Yeah.
Where you're being pulled.
Yeah, but everything's, I think they're kind of all in one. I think it's just how you relate. One of my really good friends had this awesome quote, and I say it all the time. It's like, there's no such thing as bad things in the world, just bad relationships to those things. Alcohol is inherently bad. It's just your relationship with alcohol. Mm-hmm. Negative thought patterns aren't inherently bad. It's just your relationship with those thought patterns. Do you ruminate on them too long? Do they own your existence? Does those negative patterns tend to make you make poor decisions in your life? Do they tend to make you think suicidal thoughts? Do they tend to make you like downward spiral? Or do they motivate you to be better? Or does that huge failure, that embarrassment, that like negative 3 or 4 days where you're just completely down on yourself, does that make you have an amazing month coming after that? Because we all go through undulations and in seasons, and it's just the human experience. I think that like as humans, as natural beings, we are made to go through these like weather seasons, undulations, and I think we're way more capable if we recognize that, let's just say winter is the time when you're down on yourself, you have more negative emotions, you're a little bit more cocooned, you're a little bit more inward, right? That's our winter. I think if you know you're in the winter, then you can more appropriately store up energy and transform and cocoon so that when the spring comes and when the summer comes, you're way more effective in it. Because I don't think we can just have summer all the time.
Right.
It's not all happy-go-lucky. So to kind of answer your question, I think having like an anti-dream is very, like the whole reason you have a dream is because you have an anti-dream in mind. You don't want to be rich because you want to be rich. You want to be rich so you're not poor, because you know what being poor feels like. You know what being poor looks like. You see examples of being poor. And yes. So like, I think everything's relative, right? There is no like, everything's relative, meaning what's good to you might be bad to someone else. Therefore, you have to have this like relative nature of it. And as much as you might be pulled to the positive in lives, I think because of just evolution and negative things happening in our lives and negative things causing pain, suffering, and death, we are inherently more attracted to the negative aspects of life because that will push us towards the smart decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, certainly. Do you ever think about evolution as like this is what we are learned, this is what we were trained for, and like the world we're in now is not what we were trained for?
Oh,
that's not what our bodies were.
Oh yeah, dude. Evolution is like one of my not like hard evolution, but like evolutionary principles. Yeah, I mean we're not like, dude, like we're meant to be grounded all the time. We're meant to live on the earth. We're meant to not have EMFs all over us. We're not meant to be in fluorescent lighting. We're not meant to have light all night. We're not meant to be in polyester clothes. We're not meant to live by ourselves, eat fake food, drink fluorinated, pharmaceuticalized water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I was thinking about fear, and that's like a common thing is like, you know, I heard this on a podcast. It was like, when you have a fear, that's a signal that you should like face it and push through it.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, that doesn't, like when I'm scared of something, I really don't want to do it. I'm really like, there's a reason.
Yeah.
It's only in the modern world that you can say something like, oh, if you have a fear, you should push through it.
Yeah.
Because fear is there for a fucking good reason.
Yeah. Maybe.
Because fear in our history probably meant that your life was at risk.
Yeah. And we all have a different tolerance towards that sort of stuff. Uh-huh. There's that one quote that, so let's think deep. Let's think about this for a second. Because there's this one quote that I always resonate with. It's like, fear is like, it's like a mile wide, but an inch deep. Mm. Right?
Yep.
Meaning like,
I've heard this.
You might like imposter syndrome. Like you might have the fear of like posting these first videos on YouTube, but like once you dip your foot into it, it's, you know, like, it's not a pool. Not bad. It's just a little puddle. It just looks really big. I think most of us have fear in life. Like if I told you to list 100 things you're fearful of, I bet you most of them are things, if you listed them, would probably be things that wouldn't kill you.
Yes.
They're just things that you want to do.
Right.
And that's why you have fear related to them, because they're like inherently in your mind. It's relative. This is like the whole relativity thing, or like the anti-dream is like, you list out all these things because they're things you want, but you're also fearful of them because you want them and you know you can probably get them if you just like did it and do it, but you're fearful of something. Like you're not fearful of like getting attacked by a polar bear and dying because you're like, well, that's not just never gonna happen to me. But like the fear of like, I don't know, like ending up alone and like not having a happy marriage or not having a good relationship with my kids, or like getting to 60 and not having money, like that's fear because you're like, fuck, that actually could happen to me, and I feel like I could do that to myself.
Right. Yeah. And so to be clear, by saying this, I wasn't saying that we should listen to our fears.
Yeah.
I was just pointing out that the fear, we were evolved to fear things, and fear meant don't do this.
Yeah.
And nowadays that isn't really relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Because there are very few things that like we can't do.
Yeah.
Where it's like going, one good example, I have a goal this year, which I'm going to do soon, to try a stand-up comedy open mic.
Cool.
Just get on
Let's go.
stage. And I'm fucking terrified.
Yeah, I would suck at that.
Like, I'm so scared of doing that. But that's something where it's like, this fear is not, maybe this fear would have like been helpful if I was a human 100,000 years ago. It would make sense. Like, yeah, don't go make yourself look like a fool in front of everybody you know.
Yeah.
Because you're going to lose all respect and no one's going to ever mate with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And but today this doesn't matter at all. There's no risk to it. So,
well, surely there's some risk.
There's some risk, but not like, if I go up in a room in front of 50 strangers, the only risk is like to my own psyche, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big risk.
Yes, it is. But it's like a self-contained risk. It's like a risk within their own system.
Yeah.
And so it's still that evolved thing. It's like, okay, I evolved this thing. It no longer is exactly doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. I would be so scared if I went up on I think I'm a funny guy. I think I'm good at making comedy. I'm good at making comedy. That's what a non-funny person says. But like getting up on stage and like having bits, like not it. It's not me. Put me in front of a mic and do podcasting. Like, I'm down for that.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, that's
whenever
cool.
It does happen. But yeah, evolution in general. I'm definitely a big fan of the whole thing as a concept and how it happens.
It's very interesting because some people think like it's interesting to hear these like esoteric conversations around evolution and how people think that it's like not a thing because they can't see it and there's no like evidence of evolution, and it's very interesting debate that I don't really know that much about, but you know, some people are like so gung-ho about it, and I probably think evolution makes sense in terms of like you kind of have to be a little specific about what you're talking about, that like species have evolved and then they grow different patterns and things like that. I just think we have such a poor concept of time because we live like these little days, and the days mean so much to us. We're like a day to like a rock is nothing. It's been around for millions of years. Like a day is nothing. Our life is a snap to them, right? And not that it's a rock, but like to a species.
That's
right?
one of the arguments against evolution, is that there has not been enough time for the changes that we've seen. And again, and I also haven't looked into this argument, like timescales are insane. Like it's to a point that it's basically impossible to just think about.
I mean, we think like the Romans live like I don't even know, like Aristotle was like so long ago. That was 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Now think of like a million years. Like it's 500 times something, right?
No, 5,000. Yeah, 500 would be a million.
Yeah.
5,000 would be 10 million. Yeah.
And like also like we think like for instance, I thought about this because our 250th year anniversary for America is coming up next year. I was like, that's 3 people ago. Sort of. That's not how people work. But like, that's 3 people ago. Right, like if people died and lived on average, like that's not long. And so I when people, I you know, whether it's usually around evolution or things like this, I just think people have such a poor concept of ability to imagine how long, like even just a million years and then a billion years, how long that truly is for like stuff to just iterate, right? Like, it's hard to imagine, like, right, you think of like, we'll just say like shrews, right? Because apparently we all came from like little shrews that like survived the dinosaur extinction. I don't know, man. Shrews probably live like a few years, then they have babies. Like, think about how many millions and millions of shrews just kept reproducing with little I believe it. I believe in this stuff, and I don't know. Some people can make arguments against it, but
and it's just so many
little
changes.
Yes, all over the place, like happening like it's an unfathomable amount.
Yeah.
Of ability to iterate on itself over and over and over and over and over. It's kind of like what was my idea about people being able to do telekinesis and telepathy. It's like when when you're just like sitting around doing nothing and there's tons of people doing that and it's just tons of thoughts around the same thing happening over and over and over again, you're going to get somewhere. There's going to be some advancements somehow.
Okay, let's talk about boredom.
Okay.
So like you just brought up and you mentioned earlier, this like idea of like what comes out of boredom. And I truly believe this. I think being bored is like one of the most valuable things, because on the other side of that is like greatness, inspiration.
100%.
And I'm also at the same time a culprit, a victim, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, of just like, alleviating boredom when it comes up
Yeah.
in whatever way. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this? How do you bring it into your own life?
I mean, I totally agree. I think boredom is really, really important. So you familiar with the Lindy principle? Mm-mm. Okay, so there's this really cool principle called the Lindy principle, something like that. I don't know if it's a principle. We'll call it that. Is interesting origins about a guy making thoughts about comedians in cafes. But the idea is the more that something has been around in length of time and in use, the more likely it is going to be around in the future and used more in the future. Okay. So like walking as an exercise or running as an exercise, those will be around for a very long time. Everybody uses it. It is something, and we have used it for antiquity. It's going to be around for a very, very long period of time. Now, like Olympic weightlifting has not been around that long, fairly new. How long will it be around? If I had to make a bet, less time than walking and less time than push-ups and pull-ups.
Right. It's much less likely.
Yes.
Similar to like Beethoven. People probably listen to Beethoven longer than
Fetty Wap.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like, it's rather a simple principle, but it's just like bets. It's like, how likely is it going to happen?
Right.
Right. And you can take that with like a lot of things. I'll give one more example and then we'll get back to the boredom question, like meat, red meat. It's like red meat has been around forever. Most people eat it. They eat as much as they can if they have it. Probably something that's good for you. Probably something that will stick around long term. Okay. So boredom. It's very Lindy. We are, as a species, just evolved to be bored. Like that's what smart ideas came out of. And I think that more people, you should try to be more bored in your life. I think, and also like bored, but then sitting in that boredom, right? Because we get bored all the time and then we just take action right away. For instance, I love this game called Clash Royale, not Clash of Clans, Clash Royale.
Clash Royale, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I played both of them in high school.
Clash Royale is so good. I played it today. I have gamified it, so now I reward myself with good work with
Clash Royale.
Clash Royale, yes. This is the cutest dog, by the way.
Yeah,
she's been so well mannered the entire time. You have to like feel the boredom and then not distract yourself and like seek that. And I think it's also just like we like kind of like rob ourselves of it. I think it's just like this interesting like capitalism of modern society like totally just like takes all of that away from us. Very like Brave New Worldy. So,
yeah, I think that's a thing I've heard. I don't know if this is true or not. Maybe true, maybe not. But that in a typical hunter-gatherer society, like people would spend a lot of time just like sitting around.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
I know people, my old boss I worked with went and hung out with the Masai Mara and different hunter-gatherer tribes. I'm like, that's all they do.
Yeah.
Is sit around and do nothing. I mean, most of the, like they did like studies and things like that around how much work. Like, it's very interesting because we work all the time. They didn't work at all. No, they lived different lives and didn't have houses and cities and luxuries and running water. That's why. But like, they didn't work that much. And then most of it was just like sitting around being bored.
Have you ever done like a dopamine detox?
Not really.
Dopamine fast or any of that stuff?
Not really, no. Have you?
A little bit. What I try to do, which I haven't done that much, but I did 1 week last year where I just did not. I turned my phone off and I got like an Airbnb and just
Nice.
hung out with like a bunch of books and wrote and stuff. So I'm trying to do more of that. Just like no screen days.
Yeah.
Days where I just do zero things that involve screens.
I tend to do stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with Deep Work and like Cal Newport.
Yep. I got 3 of his books.
Nice. Which ones?
Deep Work, Slow Productivity, and Digital Minimalism.
Yeah. I don't have the middle one, Slow Productivity. But like, it's really interesting. He kind of talks about like how Freud used to like go away in his little castle for like 2 weeks. And that was like his deep work strategy. And I think that is just like something we all should try to institute in our own lives, whether it's small little bits of boredom or it's large bits of boredom like you do and Freud did. Yeah, I think it's just something that's like very good for your brain. And especially nowadays where we just have so much access to information. Like we're over-informed and over-attentionized. Right? Our attention is just grabbed by so many things. There's so much I can do with my mind. Whereas like back in the day, it was like not that much.
Yeah.
Look up at the stars, like talk with my friend, twiddle a stick, carve something. And you did that for like 10 years. So
Yeah. There's also the whole thing of like your brain needs time. It needs like idle time.
Yeah.
To just sort things out.
yeah.
And like so much shit is going on around us and we're constantly being just taking in information and there's never time to just
For me,
process.
yeah, sorry to interrupt you. For me, I struggle, man, to do that. I have to like go put myself in situations where I'm bored because I can't do that at my house. There's just so much to do. I could read a book, and even like meditating. I'm like, I don't even know if meditation is boredom. You know, to me, boredom is like sitting down in a field and like having nothing to do, and like you're like forced to be there. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really struggle to do it. It's so good for you too.
I think you can definitely still have minor versions of it. Like I think meditating is still a form of, you know, confronting boredom.
Yeah.
For me, a good one is like running or working out and not putting earbuds in.
Yeah.
Just like accepting like I'm just going to be alone with myself right
Yeah.
now. Reading as compared to like watching a YouTube video or watching a TV show, that's like more boring.
Yeah, but even then, dude, it's like reading's kind of you're still flexing that little attention thing a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I agree with you. And also like reading adds a lot of activity compared to boredom.
Mm-hmm. I talked about this many episodes ago, but it was with this guy, David Wild, who's like a triathlete. He got second place in the Austin Captex triathlon. Super cool guy. And we were talking about like normalizing just sitting. Like, let's say you go to lunch and you're waiting for your friend. Like the first thing everybody does.
Pull out their phone.
Pull out the phone.
Yep. Just sit there and do nothing.
How about we just sit there and just like wait?
Yeah.
Or like you go somewhere and like you just want to sit at the park.
Bro, isn't it so interesting when you do that? It's so weird. It kind of makes me scared sometimes. Dude, you're just like at like a dinner and like you look up or like you're at like I go get this. I go to Pho Please a lot. This really good Vietnamese restaurant by where I live in. Shout out Pho Please. Like I'll go there after a workout and just go sit by myself and eat. And I do what you just said. Like I won't look at my phone sometimes. I look up and I'm just like, everybody's just on there. This is so weird. You know, I was visiting my friend at Google. I was sitting down in the lobby waiting for him. And these like 5 guys come down. They're obviously coworkers. They knew each other. And I was sitting there. I was like on the phone with my friend. And then I got off my phone and I was like on my phone still. But I looked up and they're all just like staring down at their phones. They're all in a little circle, but they're all just staring at their phones. And I'm like, we are so weird. This is so weird.
Yeah. And that's always, for me at least, it's like I get like this spike of boredom and then just boom, it's right there. And it's just avoiding that one little spike.
Well, it's
without being like, what's on the other side of that?
Dude, also what's really fascinating is like how freaking addicting blue light is. Like blue light really triggers dopamine. And that's something, did you know about the daylight computer? Familiar with this?
Not exactly, but I maybe could guess.
Well, so they make a tablet computer. They're making phones and screens that don't have any blue light and they're grayscale, so they don't trigger the dopamine as much. And these like weird, dude.
Do you have this on your link tree? Maybe someone else did that I looked at.
Potentially, it could have been me.
Okay.
I might have it on my link tree. I don't know. I don't even know what's on my link tree. I don't even look at it that much.
I think you might because
I probably
might have looked at this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Like
they have a beautiful
They have a
website.
tablet with all this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have a really cool website if you're on a computer. It looks good on a phone too. But yeah, there's this really interesting guy, Jack Cruz, who has some wild ideas. But man, like he's posted some really interesting stuff about how people have used scientific research to show how addictive blue light is. Like, not only do you have this thing that can play Clash Royale on your phone and like show you all your friends on Instagram, but it's producing light that is really addictive. And light it's kind of like the Lindy principle. Light is one of the most biological Lindy things ever around, other than like gravity. Like everything in this world interacts with light via the sun, and we have all this fluorescent light around us. Like, that is not normal. And like, this is the first time in 100 years, this is the first time we've ever had like fake light around other than moonlight, sunlight. There are geographical things that can cause light too. Not that often. And fires. That's it. And now we have this like extremely non-native light that addicts us and ruins our freaking neurons and our eyesight and gets macular degeneration, all this stuff. Keeps us up at night, ruins our melatonin, ruins our recovery, XYZ. So it's like a double-edged sword too. Phones, at least, and screens.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about evolution, and again, like colorful things, there's not that many of them. Like most stuff is green or brown.
Yes, exactly. And like, you're familiar with like violet and like what violet is. So like indigo was like a very Roman emperors used to wear violet because it was a form of prestige because no one could have that color. The only way to get that color was to expend an exorbitant amount of money and get that violet. The indigo plant, I think, is where they got it from. You just didn't have purple things. Nothing was ever purple, right? Now we have color galore. You can have any color you want, but way back in the day, you're right. Like, everything was kind of muted. You had greens, blues, browns, things like that, and then you saw like this orange, colorful thing, and it was like, whoa.
And like color really meant something.
Yeah.
Like an apple, that's like, oh shit. Like that's a fruit. That's gonna keep me alive.
Yeah, imagine like looking at like a cantaloupe for the first time. You're like, whoa, what is this? You know?
Yeah.
I think about this often as like I know what I was thinking about now. Somebody was on X posting and they talked about like someone was talking about what they put in their coffee, and I mentioned that I put butter and maple syrup, and I made some comment. And he was like, he said something and he corrected himself. He was like, I have had maple syrup before, by the way. And then I commented back and I was like, imagine someone who's never had maple syrup before, like putting maple syrup in the mouth, like to watch that as like an adult. Right. And I say that because I'm like, imagine not ever having like seen these colors of these fruits before. And then like you see them for the first time as like an adult, you know, because I think we tend to experience these things as kids a lot. And then we see them. Like, I've never seen, I don't think, like a dragon fruit, you know, like the really prickly ones that have like the white and the black seeds inside. Like, if you never showed me that before,
and then you just see it,
and you see it, or seeing like a lion for the first time way back in the day.
Dude, one of the I don't know which one, it was like Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great, one of these guys, he would take elephants into battle.
Yeah, I think it was Alexander.
And
it
I
wasn't Genghis.
Dude, imagine going to battle.
You've seen an elephant for the first time.
You've never seen an elephant before.
Crazy.
Like, that's like a monster. That's like insane.
You'd be so scared. It's like just trunking at you and shit. Dude, and then like there's like people on them and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Maybe it was Alexander the Great.
I think it was.
Did that. I know the Persians did it too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the movie 300.
So a lot of people have had that experience.
Yeah.
Like seeing an elephant in battle for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Not knowing that exists.
Yeah. And like, but now we have all these, you know, things and we can, like, we see all this stuff. People that live in certain cultures, like indigenous cultures, they are way more inclined to have, they'll do a study. So they grab Western people and then they grab these like people that live in the wild, like these indigenous cultures, and they give them, I can't remember specifically how they did it, they give them like a slideshow of like 20 different colors, and there might be like 8 shades of green in there, there might be like 10 or 15 shades of green in there, and then they put them all next to each other and they ask how many different shades of green are there, right? To the Westerners, they're like, oh, there's only 4 shades of green. But to the people, the indigenous people, they're like, there's 13 different shades of green here, because they're way more accustomed and they can pick out, they're looking at green all the time, and their survival is tied to noticing the differences in the colors. And they also don't have all of these crazy colors to distract them. They're like, green, knowing green and blue well works out well for me long term. I need to know the differences to help me out. And so you develop these like different insights. You know, it's kind of the same with language, with like how like Chinese has like da and da, like different accents on like an A, right? And like to English, we don't pick up on that because it's not necessary. Yeah. Right? But their whole language is based on stuff like that. I know it's a little rabbit hole, but
yeah,
it's like how that boredom, right? Like how, or rather, when you don't have tons of stimuli all the time, how much you can focus in on one narrow thing, and then that becomes rich.
Do you ever think about like, you see a mouse? Let's say a mouse. I'll use that as an example.
Yep.
Every mouse looks the same to you.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is our human face detection is like insanely good, right? Like I'm just thinking about how mice probably have very good, like they can tell each other apart. They see things differently. Humans have that with faces where we can tell faces apart like crazy.
Yeah, but only in I think we're really good at it with typically the race you hang out with the most. Because
probably, yeah.
Because people like white people, people in Western society that don't hang around Asian people are really bad at it's just culturally, right? Like any group, if you're a white person, you hang out with white people a lot, you're bad at other groups. If you're a black person, you're bad at other groups. If you're an Asian person, you're bad at other groups.
Yes. I have a friend from college who's Indian, and in our friend group, there's 4 of us, and there was me and one other white guy, and he like couldn't tell us apart for a while. And we don't look anything alike. We're very different looking. It's like,
isn't that fascinating though?
Yeah.
Because you pick up on, because like each culture has their different, their different features. And then they learn to pick up on the nuances to those features. Whereas when we see a person in that culture, we pick up on these global differences where they pick up on the minute differences within that thing.
Yep. And they're just so much different than the things you're used to picking up on.
Yeah.
That big difference outweighs anything else that you're able to.
Exactly. It takes up all of your attention.
Yeah.
Rather than the little tiny details.
So I've thought about like aliens are probably like, dude, these guys are all the fucking same. Like every single one of these looks the exact same.
Huh? You think they're around? You think they're here?
If they were, I honestly have no dog in that fight. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on aliens?
I mean, I'm really interested in like the anti-gravity propulsion stuff. That stuff really interests me. And I give that, I don't know what these beings look like. I don't even know if there's anybody in the crafts or anything like that. There's a really compelling story from these like military guys on a base a while ago that walked up to this dude that was wearing like an Air Force jacket, the same as them. It wasn't dirty. The dude was missing ears. He was pale. He like spoke to them in like gibberish. And like, there's a really cool, like that thing I'm actually really inclined to believing, because 1, they're all in the military. 2, like several of them spoke out that they all had the same existence. And 3, they were all like high up officials. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like
weird.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
But like the craft stuff is very interesting. Like I'm very into like physics and propulsion, maybe, but like anti-gravity fields and like how that might work and how that distorts light and energy, and that stuff's really cool.
What are your favorite habits? Changing course a little bit.
Yeah, aliens to habits.
Aliens to habits.
This is a good change. Favorite habits. I'm going to ask this again. Can you be a little bit more specific with your question?
What are 3 regular behaviors that you take
that benefit me the most? That I enjoy the most?
Yes.
Both?
Increase your quality of life.
There you go. Volleyball, group sport activity, I would say, because ice hockey gives me a lot of joy and volleyball gives me a lot of joy. And I think playing on teams is very good for people. And I think I actually think like if you have you can suss out shitty people in group sports really easily. Because this like weird phenomenon happens where like they can't negotiate with everyone else to get to the desired goal, or their like antisocial behaviors will come out, right? Like they might be a dickhead to people. They might not be able to like shunt their like disappointment in others. They might not be able to handle their anger or things like that. And I think it's a really cool way to suss out people. So that's one. And I don't like it just for that reason, but I think that's a cool factor of it. I think it just tells you a lot about someone. Is like, it's
basically like, how do you work within a group and how do you,
But like when it's not, and also like in this weird dynamic where there's a game involved too, right? I like game theory a lot, and so that would be one. That's one habit I've been doing a lot. I really like sauna with cold air. I like doing cold plunges, but I don't like cold plunges like as much as I like really cold air with saunas. There's just, man, you get like some people in the Hive or Squatch sauna, like with some conspiracy theories and good conversations. Like it's so good. That's another good one. And writing and like taking an idea and like revisiting that idea and expanding upon that more. That's a good one too.
Yeah, writing's definitely a big one. That's a good one for me to get out of a rut.
Yeah.
It's like, let me just write some stuff.
Yeah.
And that usually leads to some like kind of just my wheels get turning, get a little more excited. Yeah.
It forces you to, one, slow down, and two, think out like logical steps, because our brain will tend to go like A, B, F, G.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you write, you can't skip all that stuff.
Right. It has to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to write in coherent, logical sentences, then it has to make sense.
Yeah, it has to make sense.
What does your dream life look like?
My dream life. I've had this asked before, and it's a good question. Like what's your dream Wednesday look like? Is the way I've always thought about it, or asked someone.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause Wednesdays are like the most they're like the most mediocre day.
Right.
Potentially Tuesdays up there too.
So how do you optimize for that?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah. Man, in a perfect world, like I wake up inspired, feeling good, get out of bed, go bask in the sun. Right now I've been getting I live on the second floor of my house, and so I get out and I go up on my roof and I sit in the sun, because the sun rises behind all these trees, so it's like the only spot I can get it early in the morning is up on my roof. But it's awesome though, because I can see all of downtown from my roof. Yeah, it's really cool. Like the entirety of downtown. I live up on like a little hill, and some type of sunlight, some type of like little relaxed breathing, getting my feet on the earth. It's a chilly morning because I live somewhere temperate, and come back in. I'll probably take notes on that, like kind of more intellectual reading. And then in a perfect world, man, I would love to just have enough authority, credibility, and value to people where I could get anybody on my podcast and just interview cool people. If I could do that for the rest of my life, I'd probably be pretty happy. And move my body and be healthy enough that I can move my body well and hike, go do stuff outdoors, play in the ocean. It's like
people? What kind of people are around you?
The only people that make me happy. In a perfect world, I have so much wealth that I can bring all of my family that wants to live around me into like a little compound, and friends. And we live together, mainly friends, but also, whatever family wants to come. And, we have like all live in this little community where we share a little bit of resources. We surround ourselves with good people so that, I think like our modern parenting style has like really we used to use each other for common resources.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're like, live in your house with all of your own stuff and all of your own, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so living around people is probably pretty beneficial. I think that summarizes the people aspect of that. I would just podcast for the rest of my life if I could.
Just keep doing it.
Dude, yeah. Seriously, I love doing it. It's so fun.
Well, let's wrap this up.
Cool.
Matt, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. Well, if you are someone looking to start a business, get more help with e-commerce, you can check out my business, risebrands.co, RIZEBRANDS.co. You can check out my podcast, which you can find through my Instagram page, which is my name, MATTGREBOSKY. That's probably the best place. I post some controversial thoughts in there all the time. So if you want to get inside my brain a little bit and see what I have to think on hot takes and things like that, that's where I'll be.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure. Bye, everybody.